Hit and record. So this video is about a mystery, and there's been a lot of talk out there about Salvatore Pais and his mysterious UFO patents. They may be UFO patents, they may be other patents, and he's pretty serious about them, and others are pretty serious about them. They sort of represent these concepts in inertial mass reduction and faster than light potential travel, and it's just really interesting. So I found it really especially phenomenal when this guy Bernardo Kastrup, who I've seen several times on Kurt Jaimungal's Theories of Everything channel, talking about his theories of idealism and the fundamental nature of reality being somewhat conscious. Or that our experience of consciousness is sort of a fine-tuned version of this universal conscious field that we're all a part of, which is extremely interesting and stuff that I'm into. And I believe that, so this is ironic because I think that Sal has been inspired by Bernardo, and in that, since I think Bernardo's been talking to Kurt on his channel, he's come up with a paper called the Superforce paper, and that he says involves consciousness, and so that seems very closely related to Kastrup and what he's come up with. And actually, if you hear Kastrup talking and you read Pais's paper about the Superforce, they seem adjacent. I don't know if there's cross-pollination going on there, but or a convergence and coalescence on similar ideas, but it's very similar to a lot of the things I think about. So this came out with Kastrup sort of evaluating these patents and seeing, are they really UFO patents? Are they pointing to technology in the Navy? Because some people think I've heard out there that this is a revelation of the technology that's physically behind the Tic Tac and other things that people have seen. And not so sure about that. And neither is Bernardo, but I digress. And he goes through and he says, of course, the obvious thing, the connection is that the apps relate directly to the observables. If you were going to have the phenomena that we observe, you'd need something like these, some sort of inertial mass reduction device, which in Pais's designs are sort of created by a gravimetric field, or sort of a series of gravimetric fields around the craft that are created. I think it's xenon gas activated by microwaves. Forgive me, Dan, if I'm getting this wrong. And then that creates sort of a resonant cavity, and around which gravity waves form. And the collection of those gravity waves can be fine-tuned and ordered and directed in different ways. So Bernardo says that he spent 25 years in the high-tech industry doing tech strategy. So he's especially well placed to be able to comment here about sort of the emergence of new technology and what patents can tell us about what it is. So a patent is a legal monopoly, and it gives an individual or company the right to be exclusive exploiter of the patented idea for a limited period, usually 20 years. So these aren't like significant defense industry stuff that ends up, they're not trying to keep it a secret, in other words, otherwise they wouldn't be releasing these patents. And it doesn't seem like they're a leak, because Pais isn't in trouble, and he's still working for the military. He's working for Space Force now, I think, even though he was working for the Navy for a while after he applied these. So the general thing here is Kastrup seems to think that these are pointing to a kind of, bragging or just the Navy revealing more commercial facet of its collection of intellectual property, and these things could potentially have some commercial application eventually, or just as an interest in the public interest, right? Or it's possible, and here's what I was thinking, obviously the UAP exists, and people have seen these things out there, and there's a lot of folks in the past that have said, that's just physically not possible, therefore it can't be. That's very common. It can't be, therefore it isn't. It's a common refrain that you hear when you do this work and talk to serious scientists. I think that's just not a serious argument, but this basically may serve the purpose of just saying, hey, wait a second, this is at least conceivable given, maybe the proper materials, high enough energy, and a lot of engineering, but it's possible, right? And somewhere in space-time, something or someone may have come up with this, and this is stuff that we could work on ourselves. No, so this has got a lot of engineers, my friends, myself, all very interested, and that's just one of them. So wanted to mention that, and kind of so he says here toward the end, where the patent applications clearly did have an effect is among the people in the West who are not familiar with patent law and IPR practice. In other words, the regular folks on the streets of our towns. Many of these people may now be thinking that the UAP observables are not as magical and absurd as they seemed at first, for even we, mere human beings, are now producing seemingly credible inventions endorsed by the Navy. Now, I pause there, that's kind of a straw man of what maybe some people are thinking. That I have seen that out there in the less informed circles, but I think it's more of it's possible that somewhere something is possibly building them, and or we could eventually, not that it has per se, so maybe the UAP stories aren't implausible after all, huh? Maybe there's something to them, something that makes good scientific sense and doesn't force us into a tricky mystical ideation. Now that's a factual, cultural level effect of Pais's patent applications. Was it deliberate? I don't know. But I do know this. By choosing patent applications, which are intrinsically associated with technological breakthroughs in the popular psyche, the Navy ensured that they would get a lot of media attention, as they did, in fact, did. Could the underlying goal of doing so be the benign wish to help prepare the collective psyche of Western societies for disclosure? Again, I don't know. But this seems to be a less implausible explanation for such an unusual step than the alternatives. So he's saying, it seems like somebody's hinting at something that could be, maybe hinting at something that is, but if this was really, as Pais himself said, he left a secret sauce out for public disclosure. These are hints at things that may exist or may potentially exist, and obviously seem to exist in something that, or someone that seems to be doing these things. So I went and plugged this here into ChatGPT to see what the professor thinks, and I wanted to get an idea of what its impression was. So I asked, what did I ask? What was my specific prompt here? So can you summarize and give your first impression about the purpose of Kastrup's writing? And it got it pretty good. It says, this piece written by Bernardo Kastrup, a Dutch philosopher and computer scientist, critically examines the U.S. Navy's patent applications for technologies that seem to mirror the capabilities of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. Kastrup highlights the work of Salvatore Pais, who filed patents for advanced technologies like a plasma compression fusion device, a gravitational wave detector, and a craft using inertial mass reduction. These technologies, according to some speculations, might be connected to reverse-engineered UAP technology, potentially part of a strategy to maintain military superiority. Kastrup, however, argues against this viewpoint. Drawing on his extensive experience in the high-tech industry and intellectual property rights, he explains that patents are public documents making the technology they describe accessible to everyone. This public nature goes against the concept of military secrecy, as it would not make sense to openly share such advanced technology if it had significant defense implications. I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends on the internet in recent times. And of course, people in real life that I know are like, the hell are you talking about, bro? So his whole concept of people on the street, I'm not really seeing that. It's more like people on the boards around the internet street, the UFO culture. Which I imagine Bernardo's popping around here and there watching. So the article further discusses the nature and purpose of patents, emphasizing that they're a trade-off between monopoly and public disclosure, and points out that in the defense sector, secrecy is more valuable than patent production. So they're unlikely to have real defense significance that point to real things, but that they might be meant to showcase their innovative work for the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division. So it's in a way is sort of maybe hinting at a potential. Can you imagine a potential cross-pollination between DoD advanced research and commercial applications, and possibly somebody somewhere in there realizes that disclosure is necessary to finally get people the cool stuff, like they might be ready to give us the toys, and we might be looking forward to little releases here and there. Could be a hint, right? Sounds like a hint. And that's the look on Sal's face sometimes when he's giving these presentations. He seems to have kind of a something in his back pocket. He's a little cheeky. He's like, you guys, it's not that difficult, and you just got to trust me. And I usually when I see that in some characters, I get sketchy, like they're trying to lead you somewhere and lead you along, but I don't know. He seems genuine, and he seems almost playful in that he's genuinely encouraging people to move forward with these things themselves, rather than saying, hey, I'm the guy, come, listen to me and follow me and give me money and all this other stuff. He's not doing that. He didn't take money. He didn't take money for these patents either. And he didn't sell them, and he just wants to be involved, and he's an engineer, and his benefit has been employment in the proper places because he got the right people aware that they're like, okay, you're smart enough, you need to be with us. We don't want you just drifting out there, right? He's a patriot, as he says. So I did another, and I took, here's the original patent, which is pretty arcane if you don't know what you're looking at. But this is the original patent it's on freaking Google, patents.google.com. So it can't be it's like that. The argument that it's leaked secrecy is ridiculous. And we saw the thing a little while ago where, a kid released some confidential maps on Discord, and that was a huge media thing. And, this is like potential faster than light technology. So if whoever leaked this, if they're not in Gitmo, then I don't know what the point of those laws is. But yeah, here this is. And so I put that into chat as well and asked it to summarize and give impressions related to Kastrup's arguments here. And then later on without not related to Kastrup's arguments. It says the patent text you've provided describes a craft using an inertial mass reduction device invented by Salvatore Cezar Pais, and assigned to the U.S. Department of Navy. The abstract outlines a craft comprising an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonant cavity, and microwave emitters. These components work together to create high-frequency electromagnetic waves within the resonant cavity, resulting in the cavity vibrating in accelerated mode of generating a local polarized vacuum outside the outer resonant cavity wall. So local polarized vacuum. That's related to Hal Puthoff's work on polarized vacuum. So this is modifying the fabric of space-time according to how put off by creating a gradient between two areas of charge in vacuum of space. So this could work in space or in the atmosphere. It's a truly warp drive. This invention is grounded in the interaction of high-energy electromagnetic fields with the vacuum energy state, exploring the possibility of manipulating quantum field fluctuations to reduce inertial mass. It suggests that by polarizing the vacuum in the vicinity of the craft, one can reduce its inertia, allowing for extreme speeds. So, like, speeds and possibly in excess of the speed of light, because it's inertia and mass gaining more mass the further you go and accelerate. Like, that's the irony of E equals mc squared, is that as you accelerate, you will gain mass and it becomes harder and harder to accelerate. You need more and more energy. So if you're somehow able to reduce or eliminate your inertial interactions with the universe, and Mike McCullough, who talks about quantized inertia a lot, he would sort of agree with this, because his theory is that inertia is based on electromagnetic interaction between the moving local electromagnetic field of a thing, an object, moving, and that's interacting with the radioactive pressure of the universe. You need to blow your nose, dude? Sorry. Yeah, so that's what's up there. And
Thanks.
Sorry, okay, this is the only way I can do this. Yeah, it reduces the from a technical. So yeah, while McCulloch didn't necessarily, he's working on a drive to do this stuff internally and get electromagnetic radiation to operate against the Rindler horizon inside of a thing. That's his drive. But this also sort of operates on a very similar premise to, by reducing the interactions between your object, your craft, and the universe, let's say space-time itself, you can go past the limit. Now, combining those two, if you had QI drive, higher horizon drive inside this thing, and this inertial mass reduction technology on the outside, several layers of that. Sort of reminds me of wetting the dries, drying the wets in cooking. Like these technologies that are flying around in the form of UAPs might have several layers of this premise and this kind of inertial space-time engineering technology using varying isotopes and isotopic ratios that are not really very common on this planet, and high energies and high frequency and gravimetric manipulations and space-time manipulations. Those could be much more common. We're at this juncture as a species where we're beginning to move from nuts and bolts, just basic engineering using established principles of space-time, into like not necessarily changing what we know about GR and quantum mechanics, but building on those and interleaving these concepts in physical and theoretical form to create like amazing technology. So it says the patent text you've provided describes, this invention is grounded in the interaction of high energy electromagnetic fields with the vacuum energy state, exploring the possibility of manipulating quantum field fluctuations to reduce inertial mass. It suggests that by polarizing the vacuum in the vicinity of the craft, one can reduce its inertia, allowing for extreme speeds. The text seems to hinge on advanced concepts of quantum physics, such as the Casimir effect and manipulation of vacuum energy. From a technical standpoint, the patent represents a bold and unconventional approach to propulsion and craft design, leveraging cutting-edge physics. It proposes a system that significantly departs from traditional propulsion methods, potentially revolutionizing aerospace technology. So comparing this to Bernardo Kastrup's perspective, there are some clear contrasts. I don't think Bernardo was outright saying that this is impossible. He was just saying that the purpose that a lot of people think that these things were released for or are being used for precisely are not necessarily what people are inferring from this. Like, oh my God, it's a UFO patent. That means all UFOs are being made by the government, blah, blah, blah. That's not what. So that's what he's saying. He's a smart guy, and I'm sure that he respects Salvatore Pais, and I don't think that he would be just debunking the whole premise like that. So there's the first argument of technological feasibility versus skepticism. The patent describes a technology that, if feasible, would represent a significant breakthrough in physics and aerospace engineering. You got that right. Oh boy. Kastrup, however, he expresses skepticism about the practical defense applications of such technologies, suggesting that if they were genuinely groundbreaking and applicable to military hardware, they would likely be classified and protected as industrial secrets rather than being disclosed through patents. Yeah. Presents an image of innovation and advanced research within the Navy, that the Navy has cutting-edge theoretical physics. But Kastrup's saying that the patent filing could be more about strategic posturing, possibly hinting at that commercial application bit, and or just getting people interested. Hey, you all you aspiring physicists out there, maybe come by the Navy. We got some interesting shit. That sort of thing. That he's maybe seeing these patents as unlikely to be based on actionable technology. Now, it is true that the energies and materials are simply, not available yet. I would argue that, but still, it's pretty unrealistic in a lot of ways. Like just given what we know. Now there could be some. These are engineering problems, as far as I'm concerned. There could be something that comes up in between that fills the gap, so to speak. And I asked the professor here, what's your impression about the patent filing itself, minus his interpretation? Seems plausible based on known laws of space, time, space, matter, and energy. He's saying involves assessing it against our current understanding of physics, particularly the laws governing space, time, matter, and energy. The patent describes a technology that aims to manipulate quantum field fluctuations and vacuum energy to reduce inertial mass, theoretically enabling extreme speeds in propulsion. Leans heavily on advanced and speculative areas of quantum physics and electromagnetism. Here's some key considerations. It relies on the Casimir effect and vacuum polarization. While these are established phenomena in quantum physics, true, practical application, especially at macroscopic scale, is highly speculative and unproven. That doesn't really mean much. That's a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned. It hasn't been done, as far as we know, in the public sector to, macro apply these micro phenomena, right? And so that doesn't mean much to me. These represent a macro application of micro phenomena, maybe one of the first and best. Although you could argue that the internet and computers themselves are such a thing, and quantum computers especially. So I don't think we're unfamiliar with quantum phenomena being explicated and expounded in the macro, and that's obviously affected our experience as a group. Who can imagine life without the internet these days? I remember it. It wasn't like the Dark Ages, and there was a lot of things that were better, but so much has changed. I couldn't imagine my life now without it. And I don't think a lot of us could. The creation of high energy electromagnetic fields to induce local changes in the vacuum energy state is a novel idea. However, generating and controlling such fields at the energy levels implied by the patent without incurring significant challenges or unintended consequences is currently beyond established technological capabilities. In other words, making these extremely high energies might come with drawbacks. And, you're talking about modifying space-time here. Enough energy concentrated in a small enough space to bend space-time. So you're talking about extremely durable materials. I think you might be talking about conductors, superconductors, in fact. So LK99 gets involved here potentially, or whatever, whatever the idea of LK99, whether that pans out itself, leads people to reinvigorate this pursuit of room temperature superconductors, and they do find the right recipe and the right configuration, which that's come up again recently. Some people are like, now hold on. It's a theme. It's a whole vibe. This second half of 2023, and people are like, up until that point, it's like, nope, impossible, impossible, impossible. Second half of 2023 and beyond, and now hold on. Don't be too hasty. And here now we have this, kind of intellectual superconductor in the form of AI, and not AGI yet, as far as we know. That's for another video. I think there's a ghost in the machine, but that's for another video. So here we are with rapidly evolving intelligence, developing these things, possibly physically, definitely intellectually, and feeling like we're getting incrementally closer to working devices. Is what we're seeing in the sky around us future technology that's returned to the past? Like FTL definitely leads to implications of time travel, because by moving faster than the light, you're going to the other side of the time-like curve that light occupies in space, on the space-time geodesic. And that implies time travel. You're moving into a different window in a different way that time moves. And that's significant. So is it future craft? Is it past? Is it other species? Is it current? It's all kind of up in the air. The concept of inertial mass reduction, the concept of reducing across inertial mass for manipulation of space-time and quantum fields, is a significant departure from known physics. This thing is not familiar with QI, Mike McCulloch's work, which that is currently now, in space as a drive on a platform, being tested for practical applications in space. So this is obviously with the 2021 cutoff, and it didn't really seem to bother going out and reaching out to the external world on this. It just stops. Sometimes Neil deGrasse Tyson is alive and well in the machine. But yeah, remain purely theoretical and far from any practical implementation or experimental verification. Not true. Feasibility and current scientific consensus. The ideas presented are more aligned with theoretical and speculative physics rather than applied or experimental blah, 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 blah. I know what to... Up yours, bot. I know better. The energy and power requirements for some such technology as described would be enormous. Generating and sustaining the described electromagnetic fields at the necessary intensities and frequencies would challenge, if not far exceed, the current energy generation and storage capabilities. Now that is feasible. Those sound like engineering problems, though. So that's the response there. In conclusion, while the patent filing represents fascinating and imaginative ideas, they appear to be more speculative and theoretical rather than grounded in current scientific blah, 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 blah. But provided these energies were reachable by some human technology, it could be feasible. Still face significant engineering challenges. These concepts rely on manipulating field fluctuations and vacuum energy states. If the energy levels were attainable, doesn't provide our current understanding doesn't provide a practical framework for manipulating these phenomena. Blah blah blah. So that's not true. Cross that off the list, because we do have frameworks. It's just they're not popular, and a lot of the people are poo-pooed and debunked and skullduged in the community. And it's rather sad. But acting like alternatives don't exist is just not correct. That's intellectually disingenuous. It's a bad faith argument, bro. Generating and controlling these electromagnetic fields at such intensities would be a monumental task. You'd have to maintain stability and safety, so that's a challenge. Material science, yeah, again, we might not know exactly how to make these things, but theoretically, superconductivity could help. Plasma, possibly asymmetric plasma, which Pais has talked about as a superconductor itself, as a sort of metamaterial itself. Some people have said, plasma can't be a metamaterial. Why not, bro? Like, does it have to be solid matter to be a material? It's all material, bro. So, using electromagnetic fields to design chiral metamaterials in plasma that then have space-time implications that further modify electromagnetism and possibly, gravity and space-time. That's interesting. So theoretical feasibility is one aspect, but empirical verification is crucial. They would need rigorous testing and validation through experiments and practical demonstrations. That's like the whole of Space Case Zero's Discord and APAC and all the folks that I know that are working on these things that have shown results with these direct force manipulations and space-time manipulations. So cross that one off the list. And again, the bot can be forgiven for not knowing because its corpus isn't loaded with all this cool shit. And arguably it's suppressed. So that's again the patent coming out from the Navy. Seems to be the Navy sort of tongue-in-cheek tacitly admitting that these things aren't as crazy as they seem, and maybe somebody somewhere besides just us garage tinkerers are playing with these things. So if you have a moment in history where the DoD is playing with this stuff, and it's the similar stuff as the garage tinkerers are, you're getting close to, where you have, flight emerging and computers emerging and things like that. We've seen this movie before, right? And that's exciting because the implications are immense. Could have warp drive, bro. Could have warp drive. Anyway, I think that's about all I wanted to do on this for now. And I'm sure I've gone on long enough. It's a 30-minute video, but if you appreciated this analysis, apologize for the bumps. This is how it has to be. I'm not going to edit this. It's just raw and everything. And if you like that vibe, like and subscribe. And share this thing and leave me a comment and all that stuff. Love to be engaged in the conversation. Try to leave a link to my Discord in the description here. And if you don't find it, leave a comment about that. And I'll remember, because I'll see the comment. And I just love to have these conversations with people. Let's get going on this stuff, bro. Have a good day. Bye.